Great. I will start with roll call. Director Alvarado is not present currently. Director Stanley?
Yes, and I'm in the same neighborhood as Director Alvarado. Why does he have a power outage? I don't.
Director Weiner?
Present.
Vice President Cepeda?
Here.
And President Suddeth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. We have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Right, now is the time for public comments for items not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, did we receive any public comments or requests to speak at tonight's meeting?
Madam President, we did not receive any public comments, and we do not have anyone on the attendee list.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. Before we get started, as a reminder, Vice President Cepeda will be serving as our parliamentarian for tonight's meeting. And now I'd like to have the General Manager, Ms. Lisa Malekzadeh, lead us through the rest of the agenda. General Manager?
Thank you, President Suddeth. So the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, and the consent calendar consists of items 1 through 3 on the agenda. It sounds like we don't have any written comments or any members of the public present that would like to make any comments on the consent calendar. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we haven't received any items, then we would recommend the board approve these items and request a motion to do so.
Thank you so much. Director Weiner, did you have a question?
No, I wanted to move to approve the consent calendar with the exception that I asked the secretary to replace the transcription of my testimony with the actual text of my statement regarding the board debt policy. So I would move that we approve with that change to the minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, so thank you so much. We have a motion to approve with that exception from Director Weiner, and it has been properly seconded by Vice President Cepeda. Do we have any further comments? Do we have any? It doesn't seem we have any comments from the public. May we please poll the board, Madam Secretary, Madam Clerk,
Okay.
Madam, sorry.
Director Alvarado isn't present, so we'll start with Director Stanley.
Yes.
Director Weiner,
Yes.
Vice President Cepeda.
Yes.
Thank you. President Suddeth.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The motion passes.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is our regular calendar, and item 4 is I think Director Weiner has a comment.
Well, just hold your comment. Just let her get through this first. Sorry.
This has to do with the agenda. So we're moving through the agenda and I'd like to propose a motion to change the agenda. So I think it would be appropriate to do that before we began.
Okay, sir. What would you like? What is your query? We have just one moment. For the record, Madam Clerk, we have Director Alvarado present.
I don't know how long, but I'm here now.
Yes, sir. No problem. Okay, Director.
Thank you.
Weiner.
Noted.
Director Weiner, go ahead.
Yes, I move to table the report on expenditures related to Director Stanley.
Oh, do you need a second?
Yes, I do.
Oh, I'll second.
Madam Clerk, can you go ahead?
I'm sorry, I just want to ask a question. Sorry, Director Weiner, when you asked to table the report, do you have it, are you asking for it to be agendized on a different agenda?
No, I'm asking it to be removed from this agenda and never brought back, but I think that's called tabling. And unless someone else brings it back.
Actually,
Tabling.
tabling is for a later date. If you're asking for it to be removed and never brought back, then that's removed. It's
Okay,
not
well, my
tabled.
interpretation of Roberts said
Just tell us what you would like to do.
it's the
I don't want to
same.
get into a
If
dispute.
there's any clarification needed, I'm fine with saying to remove it.
Okay, so is that what you would like to do?
I would like to remove the table report. I would move to do it, and I'd like to explain why when we get to that portion of our discussion.
So, okay, so that's your motion, and Director Stanley, you have seconded.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have a very, very brief discussion of Vice President Zepeda, like less than 5 minutes. Total,
Can't hear.
sir.
Am I given the floor yet?
Yes,
All right, the report has already been presented to the board, and this is just a waste of time. Councillor Collins admits that the data has limited utility. I quote her submission letter. Please note that some of these are combined billings relating to more than one issue and therefore may be over-inclusive. More than a dozen emails have been received that are computer or administrative in nature and are unrelated to legal issues. It is ironic that the board member who most wants to limit debate because of time constraints would want this redundant inclusion of the matter. We've already discussed it.
thank you very much. Is there any other discussion before we move to vote on the motion? Madam Clerk, is there any comments from the public?
Madam President, we did not receive any public comment for this item, and we do have a couple of attendees on the list. If they would like to speak on this item, they can raise their hand. Seeing none raised, we do not have public comment.
Okay, thank you very much. Would you please poll the board?
Thank you, Director Alvarado.
No,
Director Stanley,
Yes.
Director Weiner,
Yes.
Vice President Zepeda,
No.
and President Sedith.
No,
Thank you. Motion fails.
thank you very much. Back to you, General Manager. Can we please continue with the business at hand? Thank you, Director Weiner.
Thank you, President. So item 4, as I started to say, is a presentation. And the motion before the board would be to adopt the 10-year capital improvement projects plan. And I'm going to call on Michael Savannah, our Infrastructure and Planning Director, to introduce the item. And I believe that he has a presentation with additional staff who will be presenting. And I did just want to note that this item was presented to the Infrastructure, Operations, and Environment Committee, and they did approve this for approval to the board. So with that, I will turn it over to Michael. Thank you.
Good evening.
Okay, thank you so much. Michael, before you start, sir, just one moment. Can everyone please mute themselves? Because I don't know if everyone else is hearing it, but I'm getting a little bit of feedback. So yes, I want to be able to hear Sir Michael clearly. Thank you. The floor is yours, sir.
Good evening. Michael Savannah, Director of Infrastructure and Planning. I'd like to introduce to the board and the public Susan Pan. She is our Planning and Support Services Manager. We're going to give you a presentation this evening. Susan, do you want to share your screen with the presentation?
Yes.
I'll start by just saying this has been a labor of love to develop our new 10-year plan. We can go to the next slide, Susan. So this evening, we're going to walk you through the 10-year capital improvement projects plan. This plan was developed by district staff, and is a living document. What we're coming to the board and requesting this evening is approval of the plan that'll be set forth in front of you. I just want to clarify, we're not requesting approval of any funds at this time. What we are requesting approval of is specifically the plan. You'll see funds on there. There's a spending plan on there. The actual funds approval will come at the next board meeting, I believe, with the budget. It's a living document, so it is created with the understanding of all of the most current information that we have, from operational needs, assessments, as well as condition assessments of our assets, regulatory requirements, and funding requirements. As modifications are needed to this document, staff will come back to the board during our biennial budget cycle and make adjustments where needed. We will walk you through the 10-year plan first, and then we will walk you through a more concise 5-year subset of the 10-year plan. Keeping in mind, when you develop these types of plans, the first year or two are very focused. As you go out in out years 3 and 4, it gets a little bit unfocused. And by the time you get to year 10, it's a plan, but things will inevitably change at some point. So we will hone in on the 5-year CIP plan in the next section, and then we'll walk you through just the individual programs, not necessarily any of the individual projects. You all received the 10-year plan, which included a lot of the same information that you're going to see here, but it also was a lot more comprehensive in that it had individual project spending plans in there. When we're done with presenting, we'll be here for all of your questions. Next slide, please. So I'm gonna turn the presentation over to Susan at this point, and she'll walk you through the 10-year and 5-year plans.
Good evening. First, I would like to explain the capital plan development process. And the plan was developed by working collaboratively across all the divisions to first develop the prioritization system that will be used to assign a priority score to each project. Once the system was developed, the same working group confirmed that all of the active projects, as well as the proposed future projects, were accounted for in the CIP list. These projects were then scored using the newly developed prioritization system. To prioritize the CIPs, the staff used 3 criteria: essentialness, funding, and strategic alignment. The first criterion of essentialness is driven by regulatory requirements, health and safety regulations, and the presence of existing agreements with other agencies. The second criterion of funding considered whether the project funding has already been approved and appropriated for or the project is funded by existing grants or loans which require immediate delivery to secure funds or honor the funding agreements. The third criterion is the project's strategic alignment with district's strategic plan. The criterion measures the number of strategic goals the project aligns with. So the overall scoring system is a weighted system that gives the highest weight to the essential criterion and the second highest weight to the funding criterion. Once all the projects have a priority score assigned, they were ranked with the highest priority scores being placed first in the delivery schedule. If you can also refer to the spreadsheets in the 10-year CIP plan report that shows all the projects, how they were scored and ranked. So the staff identified the about $10 to $12 million per year as a realistic delivery goal and sought to limit the CIP spending for each year to those numbers. So when this threshold was met, the remaining projects were pushed out to the next year. So this process will be followed until all the projects were scheduled for delivery. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next slide. So for the total 10-year CIP plan, this, as you can see, that this has a total budget of about $217 million. And we have 7 programs in this plan. The Comprehensive Energy Program project, and the Facility Program, Force Main Program, Gravity Sewer Main Program, Lift Station Program, Other Program, and Plant Process Program. Out of this whole program, the largest program is the the Comprehensive Energy Project. That's about $79.8 million. And the second largest program is the Gravity Sewer Main Program. That's about $62.5 million. And is followed by the Facilities Program at about $26.7 million, and the Plant Process Program at about $24.3 million. So next we will talk about the 5-year CIP by program. So this is the subset of the 10-year program, and it is the projects that will be planned to be delivered in the next 5 years. That'll be from fiscal year 2022 to fiscal year 2026. So as you can see that there are a total of 32 projects included in this 5-year CIP program. The highest number is the Gravity Sewer Main Program that has about 10 projects, and is followed by the Facilities Program with 6 projects, and the Lift Station Program with 6 projects. You can also view the individual project information in the 10-year CIP program project plan. And this slide shows the 5-year CIP budget by fiscal year and program. So as we described before, that we have targeted a 10-year, each year $10 to $12 million spending. However, we have a very large, the Comprehensive Energy Project. That's about $80 million that will be delivered in the next 3 years. And that's why there's this increase in spending for the next 3 years. So for FY22, it's estimated around $44 million, and FY23, it's about $37 million. And similarly in FY24, and you can see that the largest block of orange color, or this brown color, is the Comprehensive Energy Project. Next, we will discuss, like what Michael mentioned, that we will discuss each program. The first one is the Comprehensive Energy and Sustainability Project program. The purpose of this program is to improve the energy efficiency, reduce the energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. It will improve our operational safety and efficiency, and improve the quality and reuse of the biosolids produced at the plant. And it will accelerate the CIP program delivery, since it's such a large project. So the project scope includes the design and construction of influent pump station upgrades, improve the grid system, and improve the dual gravity belt thickener, the electrical blowers and new digester construction, and the sludge dewatering system, the cogeneration for power generation, and the thermal sludge drying system. And we also have solar generation facility at the wastewater treatment plant, as well as the lift stations, and also the LED upgrades at the Hilltop and wastewater treatment plant facilities, and also the electric vehicles charging stations, and the expansion of the equalization basins. The total project cost, as I mentioned before, is about $80 million, and that's the capital cost. And there's also a $7.7 million 20-year O&M contract cost in addition to the capital cost. And the next program is the Facility Program. The purpose of this program is to ensure a safe working environment for our staff and the public, And we also want to meet the functional needs for our business and to maintain and prolong the useful life of our facilities. So some of the projects include the seismic retrofit of the CSO building project and the Hilltop and wastewater treatment plant facilities assessment and upgrade project, and also outdoor lighting improvement at the Hilltop office. The next program is the force main program. The program is to ensure a reliable and safe operation of the force mains, and to reduce the inflow and infiltration, and to reduce the risk of sanitary overflow and illicit discharges at the wastewater treatment plant. This will reduce the risk of failure of critical infrastructure. And the whole program began with 3 emergency force main failures in the last 12 months. So we're currently having 3 force main repair replacement projects ongoing. And at the same time, we have recently have the board approval of a comprehensive force main inspection and assessment of all of our 13 force mains, and it's about 26,000 linear feet. The result of the comprehensive assessment is going to yield more repair and replacement of the force mains. The next program is the gravity sewer main program. And this program is to ensure the reliable and safe operations of our gravity sewer mains. And this will reduce the inflow and infiltration, and to reduce the risk of sanitary overflow and illicit discharges at the wastewater treatment plant. And at the same time, we also have a comprehensive sewer main inspection and assessment program ongoing, and the results of that will also yield more repair and replacement of the old, in poor condition gravity sewer mains. Currently, we have 10 projects as we shown before, planned in this program. The next program is the lift station, and this program is also to ensure a reliable and safe service to all the areas that cannot be served by gravity sewers, and the sewage needs to be pumped, through the force mains in order to get to our wastewater treatment plant. And this will improve the functionality and the reliability of all of our lift stations. And we also are installing generators or replacing old generators at these lift stations for emergency power outages. We currently have the phase 1, which is the upgrades of 5 lift stations under construction. And the next phase, we have 4 lift stations that will be planned for doing similar type of upgrades. Next program is the other program. This is intended for the various planning and studies that will inform the operational needs and the solutions and capital projects initiatives. So we have master plans, climate action plans, or feasibility studies for capital projects. So the last program is the plan process program. Similarly, this is also to ensure a safe and reliable operations of our wastewater treatment plant. As you know, this is a important infrastructure for the treatment of our wastewater and to produce recycled water. So we want to make sure that everything is operating correctly and reliably to prevent any malfunctioning or illicit discharges of our wastewater. So some of the projects we have ongoing is the planned effluent valve replacement and the planned effluent electrical system upgrades. We also have a sea level rise protection plan study undergoing. This will conclude our presentation. Is there any questions or comments?
Director Wiener. And thank you, before you start, thank you very much, Susan and Sir Michael. A great presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Director
you.
Wiener.
Yes, I wanted to add my admiration and appreciation for the great job that was done in preparing our 10 and 5-year plan. This by far has been the most detailed planning that I have seen since I've been on the board, and interestingly presented. The other documentation included in the agenda was also quite interesting, how the projects were rated, etc. And as a member of the committee that got a first look at this, I had no reservations about approving this plan.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
In that vein, I did want to have a few minutes. I'm glad you did speak, Director Wiener, and I wanted to give Vice President Zepeda, but I believe, is this your committee or is this Alvarado's? So before you speak, Vice President Zepeda, may I please hear from Director Alvarado as the chair of this committee? I did want to give him a moment to hear from this committee first, and then I come back to you, please. So Director Alvarado, would you please, as chair of this committee, just give us a few minutes, a few words about this committee's recommendation, and then we'll hear any other questions from the other board members, please.
It would be my pleasure to mention this project. It was very, very well prepared, very well presented. We had a complete presentation as we just did tonight. And I am so impressed with the progress that we have made. And this is a testament to our general manager and the people that she's surrounding herself with to make these things happen. So I want to honor her and let her know that the job she's doing is tremendous, and let's continue going forward, because this is what we need to continue going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate that. And Vice President Zepeda, thank you for your patience.
Yeah, no, I echoed the same sentiments. Great job. I was writing questions down and I was like, nope, don't need the questions because you're answering them right after the next slide. So that was really great job. The only question I do have, are we as we're planning, are we also planning for an increase in growth of population? Hilltop, for example, District 1 is going to have an increase of population by a couple of thousands. I know North Richmond is looking to expand, San Pablo is looking to expand. So are we going to have the capacity for future growth in our wastewater district? That's my only question.
Yes, okay. Michael, do you want to address or?
Sure. So as we do our project planning, we plan for what we have now. I will tell you, when we are replacing sewer lines, a lot of our lines are being upsized, which will build capacity in our system. But we have to spend the public dollar responsibly and spend it on what we have now and the people that are paying into the system. Another thing that I will tell you is part of our process when developers come in, we look at our system and we look at capacity, and if capacity needs to be built in, then the responsibility is on the developer a lot of times to build in or pay for that capacity. So we have the ability to upsize our system, and we're always trying to think forward as much as we can without spending current residents' dollars on future residents who may not be here yet. So we are building in capacity in our system, but we are not spending current residents' dollars on someone who isn't part of our system now.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Thanks, Susan. And welcome, Susan, by the way.
Thank you. And if I can add to Michael's comments, that the master plan for the district also takes a 30-year horizon forecast into the future. And that plan, we update them, every 5 to 10 years. So that will always try to keep up current with what's the projected, the growth in the area. and consequent, and as well as the facilities like the major wastewater treatment plant to make sure that it will have the capacity for the projected population and flows.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for that. I would look at the question from, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. General Manager, were you going to say something?
I was just going to add that from a plant perspective, we have, we are not normal. The only time we are at capacity or over capacity are in heavy rains. So our plant has, we probably use a little more than half of the capacity we have at the plant. So we've got quite a bit of room at the plant in terms of process. And as Michael and Susan talked about, we are upsizing our pipes as well. So I think we're in good shape. I just wanted to add that. Sorry about that, President Sudduth. Go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I think that's the one thing I was adding, I was thinking about it from a different capacity standpoint, more because I believe I've heard anyway, this reiteration from Mr. Savannah about spending, what we have now. I think that I was looking forward to also hearing the scalability of staff as we move into the future, right? And just ensuring that the general manager has done a good job of surrounding is Director Alvarado and my fellow directors, I should say, of Alvarado and the BLS, surrounding the general manager with a very, you have done a great job of building this team and then continuing to build a team as the district grows, continuing to do that with, as we know how hard that is to continue to bring in very capable staff and scaling the operation. We know how hard and difficult that is to scale the operation along with scaling the actual operations, but scaling the personnel to meet those operational goals. So I think that that's all I was, that would be my input. We know that Richmond area, San Pablo, this whole West County area that we cover is this hidden gem for housing and affordability, if that is a word in the Bay Area. So as Vice President Zepeda has said, it is going to be expected to explode in the next 10 years, 15 years. So I do want in this 10-year plan for us to be looking at that. How do we staff? Not just how do we grow our operations, but how do we staff to meet that? So I know that's a different plan. And I know, General Manager, you have these under control. I just wanted to say it out loud. That as a board, we need to be looking at that too. Yes, Michael Savannah. Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just had one more point that I wanted to add to Vice President Zepeda's question. As we are fixing our lines, and it sort of connects what the general manager was saying to the question that Vice President Zepeda was asking. As we fix our lines and replace our lines, we're getting I&I out of our system. The more I&I we get out of our system, the more capacity we have to connect homes.
Very nice. And General Manager, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the really important point that you just brought up about staffing. And, staffing is very much a challenge. And, Michael is very challenged with staffing in his department and finding the right people to deliver. And I just want to say that the quality you're seeing is really the result of the executive leadership's team and the time that they spend vetting the people coming into this organization. It is not, we don't look for just a technical person. We look for someone who meets all of the criteria of all of the other skills that we find equally as important. And so really what you're seeing is truly the commitment of the executive leadership team to carry forward those values and ensure that we have the right staffing. And it has been a challenge. And there are people that we have had to pass because they might have met one criteria but didn't meet the other. And this team feels very strongly that we have to bring in the right people for the position in its entirety and not sacrifice. So I just want to, I appreciate the recognition, but I really want to say that it is the entire commitment of the executive leadership team that you're seeing this work and the results of it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So, do we have any more questions or comments on this item before we move on? Thank you so much. Great presentation, great work. Thank you so much. So Director Alvarado. Oh, Vice President Cepeda.
Sorry, the agenda item is to receive the presentation and adopt the 10-year capital improvement
Yes.
plan. I think we need a motion for that. Is that where
Yes,
you're
I'm going to ask Director Alvarado to do the honors. So Director Alvarado, as the chair of this committee, would you like to do the honors of making the motion, please?
It would be my pleasure. I make a motion that we approve this item.
And Director Weiner, would you like to second, sir?
I most certainly would like to second. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a properly made motion, and it has been seconded by Director Alvarado, and it's been seconded by Director Weiner. Madam Clerk, would you like to pull the board?
Director Alvarado,
Absolutely, yes.
Director Stanley,
Yes.
Director Weiner,
Yes.
Vice President Cepeda,
Yes.
and President Sedith.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is other business, and we do have a report under item 5, which are the expenditures related to Director Stanley. We brought back to the board the report that was previously presented, and it was requested at the last board meeting. So we have that in your packet, and we can certainly take any questions or discussion that the board wants to have on the item.
Thank you so much. Yes, this was requested by Director Alvarado because it was, although it was included in a previous board packet, it was not actually presented and put onto the, gone through. We didn't really go through it. So I'm going to give Director Alvarado a chance to go through it and ask the specific questions that he did have, and allow for further discussion. So, and Attorney Collins, there she is. And so I will less a lot, I'm trying to see. There's a lot is 7:07, so 8 minutes get us to 7:15. Vice President Cepeda, okay? Thank you, sir. So, Director Alvarado, since you requested this item, I will let you begin.
Okay, I just
Do you want it on the screen? Did you want it on the screen, sir?
If you can, that would be great.
Okay, Madam Clerk, do you have it? Could you pull it up for us, please? In the meanwhile, you can go ahead and start, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted Attorney Collins to give us like a comprehensive compilation of the attorney costs that we incurred because of Director Stanley. I don't know if she can do that. Give me some kind of something, because that, from the notes I can't really get it. But please.
Are you asking for like context? Is that what you mean?
That's what I'm asking for.
Okay.
Well, let me just tell you, I guess the way that we prepared this list was that we sorted our billing since October, I believe, just by doing a word search with the word Stanley, I believe in it, or censure, and this was what resulted. We did not do a real analysis on it, but we tried to do our best to present to the board what was included in the billings that related to Director Stanley. So I'm not sure how much more context I'm able to provide at this time. My memory of any specific conversation is probably fuzzy, and this is the best record that I have kept. So I'm happy to answer any more specific questions, but at this time, this is, and as Director Weiner pointed out, I want to make sure that I'm clear that this list, at least when it comes to the amount of the billing, is going to be over inclusive in some ways because they were combined items. It may be under inclusive in other ways in situations where I may have had discussions that I did not mark down with the keywords. However, it's the best approximation I was able to summarize and provide to the board in response to its request.
All right, well, let me try and get you a little bit further in here to see if you answer my questions regarding this issue. I want to know specifically if Director Stanley used your office to provide her anything other than legal services.
Well, I guess the only other issues that arose were to the extent to which that I've been copied or directed emails related to what I would generally categorize or characterize as administrative items that were not strictly legal items. And so at the direction of the general manager and the board president, I've been asked to make sure that I minimize, obviously, my receipt of those emails, first of all, because if they're not legal in nature, then they'd probably be more efficiently handled by someone who wasn't the general counsel. And also, I may not have the answers to those administrative questions. So to the extent that's responsive to your question, yes, there are aspects here that relate potentially to administrative issues.
Okay, that's not really answering my question.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Director, could I clarify further?
Sure, go right ahead.
Sure.
So I think that I could speak more directly that there are several emails in which Director Stanley specifically contacted General Counsel when they should have been directed to the General Manager. And they are items related to IT, there are items related to administrative matters handled by the clerk. There are items specifically that they should be directed to the General Manager. But due to Director Stanley's censure, she is not allowed to directly contact staff. And rather than contacting the president, as she has been directed, she would contact General Counsel. And then General Counsel would have to contact me as the general manager to handle the matters. So it is definitely an inappropriate use of General Counsel's time. And it was Director Stanley has more than on one occasion been reminded that she is to be using General Counsel only for the purpose of legal. And in fact, most of the matters of legal are supposed to go through the general manager. That has not happened on the majority of times. So I hope that gives you a more direct answer to what I think you're looking for.
It does. And I think I'm looking for what was the nature of her calls when she contacted the attorney? Was it more technical in nature about getting set up with her video, which she didn't do for over a year?
Well, there were some of those. Some of them were, I didn't get my check. I didn't get no one's responding to me. I didn't get my, I'm not getting an answer from, the tech people. Can someone please tell the tech people to set up an appointment for me? And it will be sent, and then the general counsel will be copied on some of these and she wouldn't know the nature of the email, so she would have to open it. Mm-hmm. Or it would be labeled as an emergency, and it's not an emergency, it's an administrative email, and it would be sent to her, or sometimes to her and me, or sometimes I'm not even on it, and it would have to be sent to me. But the nature of the censure was that, and she agreed to it when she signed off on it, was that she was to communicate through me, and that I would, as the president of the board, I would help coordinate the communications between her and the staff. Mm-hmm. Because of her own behavior, not the behavior of anyone else, but of her own behavior, that she was not allowed to communicate directly with the staff. So she has violated that, as I reported in last month and the months before.
Right.
And so instead of doing that, she was seeing the messages that should not have been sent to general counsel.
Mhm.
So that's why the general counsel is not able to parse directly those emails, because some of it is buried inside of other emails. And some of it is very, we spent one Friday, she and I spent almost an hour on the phone just trying to help her set up her technology.
Mhm.
So some of it's technology, because yes, you're right. She did not do what she was supposed to do for almost 1 year. But we were trying our best to help and fix the issue and rectify the issue. So we worked with her to stay satisfied, but that is not the role of the general counsel. And it is a very expensive
Role.
telephone call to have the general counsel on. And it is a very expensive, email. I recognize you, Vice President Zepeda. So that is what we were dealing with. Vice President Zepeda.
All right, Madam President, you asked me to tell you at 7:15, and we are past that time.
Thank you so
Well,
much.
I only have one more question, Madam President.
Yes, sir.
This question is to general counsel or a general manager. Can you give me an estimation? If you can't do it right now, you can always give it to me later, of the entire cost that it cost the ratepayers with all these questions, emails, and everything concerning Director Stanley.
So the cost that's included in this report, I believe it was around $40,000. I do want to point out that, as our general counsel stated, that it may be slightly over, but I think in reality it is probably under, because there are things that are somewhat confidential in nature that can't be disclosed. But there are quite a few expenses that were related to what led to the censure. So the $40,000 is actually a very probably low estimate of the cost that was incurred as a result of getting to the point of a censure. And that was in large part, related to Director Stanley. So I'd say it's 40,000 plus.
Okay, great. Thanks for the answer. Claire, would you like to add anything?
She said no.
I don't think I have anything to add.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, board.
Yes, sir. Were there any other comments from any other directors or questions? Do we have any public comment on this, Madam Clerk?
Madam President, we did not receive any public comment on this item, and I do not see any hands raised on this item as well.
Thank you so much. I will close out this item with just saying that as directors, each of us said, especially when we were running for office, that we would be fiscally responsible. And we continue to say that every time we vote on something or some issue comes up about, spending money or something like that. So I think that it is incumbent upon us to keep things like this in mind. And it's actually a violation of our own policies on about, what we're supposed to be doing. So just keep that in mind. Whenever we are violating policy, we have an obligation to be held accountable and to hold each other accountable. This is a very serious matter, and this is something that each of us have to be paying attention to. So while I understand it may be uncomfortable and it may be something that we may not want to continue to talk about, this is our responsibility, period. Just like it's our responsibility to vote on purchase orders or requisitions or spending authority or anything else, it is our responsibility to talk about the spend of public money on anything. So if we have to keep revisiting this, we will until it is rectified. Thank you so much. Next item, please.
Okay, item 6 is, actually, I'm sorry, before we leave item 5, General Counsel has a quick update on the matter. The governor just released some new information about board meetings, so she's going to just give
Yes.
a quick update on that.
I'm glad because I heard this morning.
Very briefly, I'd reported to the board previously that, as many of you know, that the governor would be lifting all of the restrictions primarily related to gatherings and mask wearing as of June 15th. I'm sure you've all heard about that. In connection with the Emergency Act, the governor also issued, as you know, the emergency orders. And if you look at the top of your agenda, you'll note that one of the emergency orders is Order N2520 and N2920, both of which pertain to the Brown Act and our ability or the ability of the governor to suspend portions of the Brown Act so that we are all able to meet via Zoom as opposed to in person. So one issue that was just raised was the concern as of June 15th, would the Zoom option go away? A number of our industry associations appealed to the governor's office for some clarity on that issue. And today we did receive a letter from the governor's office stating that the governor's office will not immediately rescind the emergency orders, but that there will be a period of time for transition and we will get advance notice of when those orders are rescinded. So we still do not have a timeline for when the emergency orders will be rescinded, but we are hoping, and based on some other information I've received, is that we'll hopefully get the 30 to 60 day heads up prior to the emergency orders being rescinded. After that time, however, again, I just want to remind the members of the board of directors and the staff that we will likely be required to meet again in person, at least a quorum of the board at the headquarters or within the jurisdiction of West County. That concludes my report.
Thank you so much. Quick question, and I recognize you, Director Wiener. Quick question. This morning, I also was under the impression that the transition would also lend itself to a hybrid model for the public.
I'm happy to speak on that.
Yeah,
what
districts may be exempt or something. Could you let us know?
I'm not clear on where that's going yet. So there are two different issues at play here. One is the executive powers of the governor to institute emergency orders during emergencies, and the other is the work of the legislature to potentially make reforms to the Brown Act. There are, as I understand it, I think that's maybe what you're talking about, President Suddath. The currently active legislation, none of it is director facing, it's all public facing. And what I mean by that is that by and large, the existing or the legislation that remains on the floor in the Capitol pertains to potentially expanded access for the public to view our meetings through Zoom or something like that. There has been talk about amendments that would only apply to cities and counties, what we call general jurisdiction entities, and not to special districts like water, wastewater, fire, hospital, et cetera. So that's the compromise that's been reached so far, but of course, none of that legislation is final yet, but we are continuing to track it and we'll report back to you when we know more.
Okay, thank you. Director Wiener, do you still have a question?
There's no need for me to ask my question because you asked it.
Oh, I'm glad I can read your mind. Thank you. All right. Madam General Manager?
So the next item is item 6, and that is, oh, I think I misstated earlier, item 6, I'm sorry, the director's comments in meeting reports. So with that, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you so much. So fellow directors, do you have any final comments or meeting reports that you would like to add this evening? Anyone? Okay, great, wonderful. I will just say that I did attend the Water Education for Latino Leaders this past week. It's very educational on what they're doing with energy. And I did attend the California Energy Commission meeting this past week. And I'm getting ready to attend. Well, it's not to the end of the month, so I don't have to miss that. So with that, I will have the General Counsel Collins now read us into closed session. We are ending our open session very nicely. Thank you so much. General Counsel.
Thank you. The board will now convene into a closed session pursuant to the Brown Act, Government Code Section 54-957.6 in connection with anticipated litigation as described on the agenda. Now is the time for any public comment on this item to be made before we convene into closed. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
We did not receive any public comment for this item, and I do not see any hands raised on the attendee list.
Okay, if there are none, then the board at this time may convene into closed session. And in doing so, it will remain on this Zoom session. There's no need to convene into a separate Zoom. I would ask that the district clerk remove any members of the public and lock the Zoom session. And then at the conclusion of the closed session, the Zoom session will be unlocked and the public will be allowed to rejoin, at which time the board will reconvene and open in order to report out any decisions made in the closed that are required to be reported out under the Brown Act. So this is a little bit different than our prior practice, and I just want to make sure we are clear that all the members of the board and our Labor Counsel, Diane O'Malley, should stay on the line, and then everyone else will be dismissed from the closed session. Do you want to, Brenda, would you like to hand over the reins to me or to the president?
Whichever you prefer. Whoever can lock the meeting.
Yes. Either one of us is fine.
Okay.
I will just give you a moment to make sure everyone has left, and then we'll enter closed session. Board members, if you need to take a quick break, we can start right at 7:30. Would you like to do that? Why don't you take a quick break? We'll start right at 7:30, okay? All right. Okay, I am the host now. Great. Ms. Claire, can you tell me who all are supposed to be here?
At this time, I would just ask the board members and Diane Marie O'Malley to stay in the meeting.
Andrew, can you log off the meeting? And I'll be logging off right after you.
Okay, I'm just adding Miss Diane back. Okay, Miss Brenda, I have it.
Okay, great.
I'll text you when we're done, okay?
Sounds good. I will leave.
Okay.
So there should
All
be
right,
7
it
of
looks
us.
like we are all here. 1, 2, 3, 4, myself 5. Okay, we're all here, and I believe I can lock it now. Okay, I'm locking the meeting.
Great.
And I will stop the recording.
Thank you.